All right, let's talk some basketball with our good friend Etan Thomas. He's joining us now. Etan, always great to have you on. How are things?
Oh, pretty good, Kay. Thanks.
All right, let's. We normally talk college with you. I want to start in the NBA with you if we could, and the play-in tournament starting tonight. What do you think of the league's effort to avoid tanking, to give more teams incentive late in the year to make the playoffs the way that they do it now with this play-in tournament? Do you like the format?
Tanking was an issue, definitely, but then you saw people really utilize tanking, like the Spurs, and ended up getting Tim Duncan. You've seen different teams, very blatantly tank. So I'm not mad at it. In some ways, it kind of penalizes the teams that earned the spot that they finished with, and now they have to compete for a spot with somebody that didn't earn it. So that aspect is a little bit, it's a little bit tricky, but the playing games are always really exciting from a fan standpoint. They're always really competitive because so much is at stake. But it depends on what perspective you're looking at for it.
Yeah, sure. I don't know how much NBA you watch. Are you invested at all in the NBA playoffs? Or are there any teams, players, matchups in particular that you're kind of looking forward to as the postseason begins?
Oh yeah, well I grew up a Knicks fan, so I'm very invested with the Knicks. Always have a tradition. My grandfather was a huge Knicks fan, so huge Yankees fan, everything New York Giants, everything. So definitely have my eye on that series. Detroit has been playing pretty well as of late. So I'll definitely keep my eye on that series. And, of course, the Lakers series, 3-6 against the Timberwolves. I think that's going to be a very exciting series. The Anthony Edwards, what he did last year, if people remember, he really put the team on his back and just kind of, elevated to a whole nother level of playing. So, the playoffs are going to be really exciting.
All right, so let me ask you this then. You look at the East, and Knicks got the 3 seed, but there's at least in the standings, there's a huge gap between, Cleveland and Boston and then the Knicks and everybody else. Do you see anyone outside of Cleveland or Boston representing the East in the NBA Finals?
That's a tough one. I'll be rooting for the Knicks.
Sure.
I'll say that. But yeah, Cleveland has been a little bit surprising. I didn't think that they were going to be as good as they did. They are pretty much consistently the entire year. But yeah, outside of them, it's a little bit tough. Now that Damian Lillard is not playing, I was really, before the season, I thought Milwaukee would be one of those teams that were, kind of up there. And of course, everybody thought that Philly was going to, not be where they are. But, that they've had a very tough go around, to say the least. But out Boston and Cleveland are definitely the favorites.
Now out west, you've got the Thunder that ran away with the Western Conference in the number 1 seed, and then you've got all these other teams bunched up that they all have talent. They all, Rockets, Lakers, Nuggets, Clippers, T-Wolves. I mean, that's 2 through 6 right there. And then the Warriors are obviously in the play-in tournament at number 7 right now. So kind of the same question. Are you taking the Thunder or the Field out west? And if it is the Field, which team do you think is most likely to make a run?
Ooh, it's really kind of up for grabs in the West a little bit more because so many teams are really close. It's going to be interesting to see how Denver bounces back from, when you fire your GM and your coach right before the playoffs. That has to have an effect on the entire team. Now they're playing the Clippers, who again is playing well as of late, and Kawhi. Listen, when Kawhi is healthy, he is still Kawhi, and it would be great to see him really have some success, so he just have so many health problems. But, you can't count the Lakers out. They have LeBron and Luka. It's another team that was a little surprising was Houston. I didn't really think that they would kind of click and do as well it's early. But you have to keep your eye on Memphis as well. So, like I said, it's going to be a fun playoff.
Yeah, I think the West is just going to be a dogfight over there, right? I mean, I feel like every matchup, every series, it's going to be hard to predict. Thunder, obviously, the overwhelming favorites given their regular season, but a lot of talent over there, a lot of star players. We'll have to see how it shakes out. All right, let's move now to the college level and to Cuse basketball. And we have gotten your thoughts on all the new additions out of the portal, and the dust is kind of settled here. Can you take us into kind of what the players are up to right now as the semester's coming to an end? They're about to go, off on their quote unquote summer break, but we know that they're working year round. Can you take us through what a typical off season looks like for a major Division I college basketball player?
Well, it's a little bit different now than it was when I was playing because you have more guys going to summer school and doing a lot of working out during the summer, and the rules were different. Even when you go past the summer, we couldn't start practicing until a little bit later. They can start kind of right away, and you kind of have to have that when you have a turnover the way that you have every single year. Teams having not only just new coaches, but half of their roster, 3/4 of their roster are new. So I think it, kind of behooves everybody to start working out early in the summer as much as possible. But the summer is really where teams bond and they start to learn each other and, the offense put in place. And you have to do that when you have, 3/4 of the roster that's new. So, I'm looking forward to seeing this team next year. I know there's been a little bit of mixed opinions about, did we get the players that are at a certain level, out of the portal? I think that we fulfilled a lot of needs. Now, of course, it all has to come together. But I'm excited. I think the brand of basketball is going to be different. They're going to play an up-tempo style. You have high flyers. You have people that can lob to. And I like Nate George a lot. So, I think he's a great pickup. So I'm looking forward to it.
What is your biggest question mark? And I know there's a lot of question marks, right? Because it is a brand new team, and so we're not going to know what it looks like until late October, early November. But what's at the top of the list, Etan, in terms of things that you want to see answered as the season tips off?
Defense, 100%.
Yeah. Right.
How are we going to defend? We have, some guys that can score. We have some guys that can pass. We have some guys that can fly. But we have to defend. And that, it's not really a secret that was a weak point of our team last year, along with outside shooting and a whole lot of other lists. But as far as the we have to defend. And that's going to be one thing that, I'm sure is going to be a point of emphasis. And I'm sure Red is going to be, preaching that nonstop, but that's one part that we have to improve on. We have to improve on our defense.
I am going to ask you a college football question, but it kind of relates to all of college athletics. I'm sure you've seen by now the Tennessee quarterback, Nico Amaliava, who decided to sit out the spring game, and Tennessee was like, he wanted more money. He wanted $4 million. He was getting $2.5 million, and Tennessee was like, no, thanks, but no thanks. Go ahead, hit the portal if you want to, and that's what he did. Today we saw, and I'm not saying the situations are the same, but Trevor Payne, SU's best wide receiver, he was named captain in December. He had an NIL deal in place, and he chose to hit the portal today, and he's looking presumably for another program and potentially a bigger payday. What do you make of the current situation? Like when you hear that Tennessee scenario, do you blame the kid? Do you blame his handlers? Do you blame the NCAA? Do you blame the school? Like, how do you kind of make sense of everything going on in college athletics right now?
Well, no, I don't think anybody's to blame. It's just a business. Now it's just the business is extending to players. So before that, the business has always been just centered around coaches. So if coaches are, talking to another team, even during the tournament, and they go to a different team, even though they committed to the current team that they're currently at, and another team pays them more, gives them more, whatever to entice them to leave their program, that's what's done because it's a business. It's about, one team pays you X amount, one team pays you X times 2. I mean, that's just the business. But now the thing that's different is extended to the players. So this is a new dynamic for people, and they're like, wait a minute now, a player's supposed to have the loyalty, and they're supposed to have all these different things. I'm like, well, wait a minute. It was never kind of preached that about coaches. If you're going to be outraged about players making money, and, I just don't hear the same outrage about coaches making money. And their numbers are going up and up, just for the past, 20, 30 years. But it's just not broadcasted as much. So I don't blame anybody. It's just a business, and now you're seeing it kind of, taken more seriously as a business, but just including the players as well.
There is a side to coaches leaving, though, that isn't part of the player leaving, and that's buyouts of their contracts where players could just leave now, whereas there's actually a financial ramification if a coach leaves.
Okay, yeah, that's true. But also, I would say that one of the differences, players are usually for a year. Their coaches are usually for multiple years. So when a player signs an NIL deal, it's just for that year. So if they leave, it's not really much to buy out because the year is over.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's. I think fans are just uncomfortable with it. It's different. It's new, and we're all kind of getting used to it at the same time. Etan, thanks so much for coming on as always and providing the insight and analysis. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Okay, you too. Thanks a lot.
All right, Etan Thomas joining us here on the program, and with that, we'll hit our final timeout. We'll wrap things up next on ESPN Radio.